hydrocarbons.
That lends a lot of credibility. If you come in and can be upfront and honest and say, actually in this application, I think this product over here that I don't represent would be better for you. That all of a sudden now you become a trusted advisor rather than a salesman.
And I often say that we have all the requirements of space, right? Because it has to go underground and send us data from miles and miles away, and it has to work. Like, failure is not an option.
We'll put on, a standard mule shoe. Ours is slightly different just for that, but it's, everybody's got one.
The top drive and the drawworks really don't care whether the electrons coming at it are from a joystick or a PLC.
The panel, what you see here on the left, which is now controlled by one of my students, is showing you actually the control of our brakes.
As of now, geothermal is a pretty small market.
If you have tortuosity, the casing will be up against the side on part of the well. There won't be any cement there. The cement will have crescent around it.
So managed pressure drilling, it's been defined as a process to precisely control the pressure profile in the wellbore.
The key is being transparent with our clients in this case. So tell them what happened. If we had a failure, tell them exactly what happened. Whether it's our fault, whether it's whatever the issue was, we need to be transparent.
But I think it's very important for everyone in the industry to know what's out there and kind of what's happening downhole as well.
I've probably worked on over 40 different performance limiters in my career. If I miss any of those, and the computer is raising weight on bit, and I miss any of those, I have a train wreck. The computer's going in the ocean.
Here's your new colors, here's your new thing. We won't do that
at all. Here's the tattoo you need to get.
Yeah, here's the tattoo. Sorry about the last one. We used to fake that all the time.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vidor Locksmith Show, where we are unlocking the secrets to success in the oil and gas industry. One interview, one technical presentation, and one technical screw up at a time. Thank you guys all so much for being here and joining with us. Do all the social media things, like, share, subscribe, blah, 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 whatever. Most importantly, let us know where you're watching from. Right? I want to be able to give everybody a shout out here this week. Thank you guys for joining us last week. We were here with Ryan Brogley. We didn't really get to go through the comment section like we normally like to do, but we really do appreciate everybody, kind of watching and being here. Wow! All of a sudden now everybody's joining in. It was just kind of numbers were kind of trickling in there to be able to begin with. We've got an amazing show here for you guys today. We've got Mark Freeman, the Chief Operations Officer from ProDirectional on the show. Been trying to get somebody from ProDirectional on the show forever. And finally, Mark has been able to make it happen. So if you are watching from ProDirectional, give us a shout out in the comment section. We would appreciate it. Please do. Been an amazing week for me. Just got back from Alaska, doing some really cool things up there. The business is booming. So is the industry. Please don't spend your money unwisely. Right? Put a couple dollars away. Try to think of anything else that I've got here for this week. News announcements. Obviously, a lot of MWD acquisitions and stuff taking place. If you guys haven't heard all the rumors, there's plenty of them out there. So just call a friend, talk to them. All right. So let's say hi to some people here. Who's tuning in? We got Abdul watching in from Egypt. Oh, whoops, I didn't. There we go. Eric Allen said, "Let's go." Robert Carrington from Vibration Technology. These guys are awesome over there, saying get it done. Thanks for being here. Brian, always, thank you for being such a great supporter. John DeWart is no longer LinkedIn user, but he is still a huge fan of the show. Thank you for tuning in from the Colorado Rockies. My favorite locksmith show. Oh yeah, so we're there. John Weather tuned in from Missouri City. Sharmili from Malaysia. Thanks for tuning in. All right. We've got the other LinkedIn user. It's no longer John DeWart, so I don't know who this one is. So it's hello all, but thanks for being here. Then we've got another one that's in the Middle East. Is it the same one? Is it different? I don't know. Nicholas White tuning in from New Mexico. Thank you for being here, sir. David, per your LinkedIn post, don't change the name of the Vidor Locksmith. It is a brand. I wasn't planning on changing it. I just said on the thing that, we get a lot of locksmiths going to my LinkedIn account, Plus, I had taken a screenshot of some of the initial names I had thought of. But it was great to see all the other names that everybody else was kind of thinking about. That would be great. So if anybody's planning on starting a show, especially in this domain or whatever, more than welcome to join in, right? There's plenty of space in this area. Nobody's competition. Come have fun, right? A lot of great names in there. I did watching from Lima, Peru. This is an international show. That gets me pumped up on Friday mornings. That's awesome. Jake Richardson saying, "What's up, David? I got the IMEC crew tuned in from H-Town." What's IMEC? I don't know what IMEC is, and I apologize if I for not knowing what that is, but I'm very curious to find out. That sounds like something interesting. Whoa, there we go. Jason Armstrong, buenos dias, David, from LinkedIn user. All right, maybe Jason Arsenault is the LinkedIn user. He's got a alter ego there. Amit tuned in from Vancouver. LinkedIn user says, "David Gibson report doing excellent shows." Thank you. Excellent shows, excellent data. I'd like to think. Dr. Blue, good morning, David. Mark is a great guy. This will be interesting. Hello from Katy, Texas. Well, thank you so much. I know this is at least one pro employee. Seth Shops, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. It's good to be able to get some love from pro. All right. LinkedIn user from Iraq. So now we know that their LinkedIn users are from different spots. And then this one's Austin Hill Country. Who's in the Austin Hill Country? That's where I'd live, out in the Hill Country. Whoever it is, just come stop by. Come see the spots. Ozzy, tuning in from Midland. Great to see you, sir. And then Mr. Greg Eaton saying good morning, everyone. So there we go. Went through all of them. If you haven't said something yet, then maybe I won't be able to get to it. But thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Seriously, I really do appreciate it. This means so much to me to be able to get the show restarted again and have a lot of people be able to tune in. If there's anybody out there who you think may be interested in the show, interested in the content that we're doing, whether it's around drilling, directional drilling automation, drill bits, drilling rigs, drilling stuff, but then we also kind of go outside of that portfolio a little bit, entrepreneurship, the oil and gas industry as a whole, energy business, stuff like that. If you think somebody would like this show, tag them in the comment section so that they can come over and see it now, maybe a little bit later on. So next thing's next. Do what you guys do. We're going to do a giveaway for a drill bit brand. Where's the button? There it is. Type in hashtag Corva, right? Type in hashtag Corva to start getting yourself. This is a DBR'd one, as Mark told me. This one, I've given away all of the current good ones, right? So these are just failed prints that just litter my shelf back here. See, there's another one there. Let's see if I can do this there, and then another one there, and another one there. I've got more DBRs than any other drill bit company there. So I've got plenty of DBRs back there. All right, type in hashtag Corva to be able to win, to get your chance to be able to win one of the drill bits, and tune in to watch this quick little insight from Corva, where they are teaching us more ways that they use data to be able to help our industry. You might be able to educate yourself real quick. So watch this video. After this, we'll do the giveaway. Then we'll come back and we'll talk to our guest. Thank you all for being here.
The demand for further digitalization in the drilling industry has been fueled by new data formats, cutting-edge software applications, and the increasing volume of real-time data. With rig activity rising over 50% in the U.S. alone in the past year, data analytics has become increasingly crucial in supporting the decision-making across the drilling operations. Nowadays, businesses aspire to accomplish more with less. For instance, drilling engineers are now taking on more rigs and need to figure out how to quickly evaluate the performance of those rigs and the personnel, apply the best practices and lessons learned in order to come to a conclusion they are confident in, and then reevaluate the results. In addition, with technology in the drilling industry evolving, for example, like bits and motors, drilling engineers are faced with the difficulty in comparing past knowledge to the newest trends. So having a tool that can measure the results from these different components becomes vital. As data analytics becomes more of a standardized tool, companies are realizing increases in productivity, earnings, and can make more strategically sound decisions.
right, there it is. Last couple of seconds to be able to put in hashtag Corva. If you haven't done it yet, I don't know what you're waiting on, honestly. Okay, so let me take this off the screen real quick. Brand, scroll up, hit that button, put that one back up. All right, we're getting a couple of more people to be able to put the comments in there. All right, and then add to stream. All right, and now we'll click the button. Who's ready? Who wants to win? Boom. There we go. If it says LinkedIn user, oh gosh, we're going to have such a problem because I think there's like 4 LinkedIn users. There we go. Robert Carrington from Vibration Technology. Robert, thank you so much for tuning in, sir. I do appreciate it. I've got your contact information. I'll get in touch with you to get you your drill bit. All right, there we go. Excellent. Oh, I'm getting a warning. It says my connection is unstable if your Wi-Fi. Oh, now it says your connection is fairly good. Okay, so maybe that'll go away. Yeah, okay, we've got good internet. Okay, time to bring on the guest of the day. All right. This person is absolutely amazing. I've met him and worked with them several times before, and they are now a current client. So here he is today, Mark Freeman. Mark, thank you for being on the show.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, absolutely happy to be here. And I do have to remind you, you did have a Pro-D guest not too long ago, Mike Elphick, right? So
oh, that's right.
There you go. So
oh man, now I feel bad.
You gotta show Mike some love. You gotta send him one of those drill bits.
You know what? I owe Mike a whole lot. He first of all of the great stuff that he has done for our industry with the PBAD and then with the basin burnout were absolutely amazing. The most fruitful day in my in Gibson Reports history, as far as being able to meet people and make an impact, just being able to shake hands, have conversations, 100% hands down was the basin burnout.
Basin burnout,
absolutely,
great event.
Was one of the absolutely best events. So for anybody who is in the directional drilling space, whether it's MWD tools, directional drilling, motors, that whole slew, if you do not go to the basin burnout, you are missing out. Like you shouldn't even be in the business at that point, right? You shouldn't even be in the business. You're just being lazy. So it was absolutely amazing. Yes, so that is true. Plus, he's helped make a lot of really good introductions for me and got me a speaking opportunity at one of the PBAD events. So huge apologies there to Mike. I'll have to text him later and tell him. So Mark, thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate it, being the second pro directional person to ever be on the show. I guess for anybody else that's out there, you guys, we haven't been doing this very much lately, but if y'all have questions for the guests, please ask those as well. It's not just for me to be able to ask questions; it's for you guys as well.
Mark, make them very easy. Make them very easy.
Let's go with the most technical questions to be able to start with, right? I do have a question. I wanted to be able to just start this off, because we can kind of go through your background a little bit. But I was looking on your LinkedIn profile, and one of the things that struck me as odd is that you actually started your career with IBM.
Yep. Totally traditional career path in oil and gas, right? Start your career in IT and then transition into oil and gas. So graduated from college, mechanical engineering degree in the late 90s, and joined IBM. So straight out of school, and I grew up in Oklahoma. I grew up around oil and gas. I grew up around a lot of agriculture. Grew up on a farm in Oklahoma, went to school at Oklahoma State, graduated in the late 90s. Oil and gas was not in a great situation at that time. And so I had an opportunity to go work for IBM in Boulder, Colorado, and took that opportunity and worked at IBM for the first 7 years of my career. So just really enjoyed that experience.
What have you taken from your time at IBM and been able to, how has that helped you in the oil and gas industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. IBM is a great company, and it was an awesome way to start my career. I was a young engineer. They brought me in, they put me through my MBA, they put me through a variety of different leadership training, and just gave me tremendous opportunities. And I think probably the biggest thing I would take away from my experience at IBM was just exposure to just a huge variety of cultures and experiences, And I was a farm kid from Oklahoma, right? And here I am, and moving to Boulder, Colorado, a very different culture, just from that perspective. And then going to work for a company like IBM that does business in every country around the globe, and having tons of exposure to people from different backgrounds, experiences, et cetera, and just that was a phenomenal experience for me. And the thing I most took away from that was just that having a diverse team and having diverse experiences and working with people with a variety of backgrounds can really bring a lot to the table in terms of identifying better ways of doing things. And I just it was a phenomenal experience for me, and something that really changed my life.
And so from there, then when you did get your start in the oil and gas industry, where did you go first?
Yeah, so sort of mid 2000s. It was 2006 actually, and I joined Baker Hughes. And at the time it was Hughes Christianson. So a lot of my experience in drilling has been, being a drill bit guy. And, again, growing up in Oklahoma, went to school with a lot of folks that ended up in oil and gas. And one of my good friends, Lyle Dolzell, a guy I went to university with, his dad was recruiting for field engineers in Denver for Baker Hughes, for Hughes Christianson. And I can remember driving into work at IBM. I was doing a phone interview with George, Lyle's dad, and I knew George. I had been around him because I was good friends with Lyle, so I'd had the opportunity to meet him and his wife and the rest of their family. And I'm driving into work at IBM, having a phone interview with George, and he's telling me all about the opportunity and what it's like to work with Hughes Christianson and what this job is about. And by the time I pulled into work, George was saying, okay, well, we're going to get you an offer letter out. I mean, that was a time in the industry where it was, things were blowing and going, and people were trying to onboard folks as quickly as possible. And I said, that's great, George, but do you mind if I go into the Denver office and actually meet with some of the people that I'm going to work with? And George said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. We'd love to get you in and meet with folks. And it turned out to be, just a great opportunity. Transitioning again from the IT industry into oil and gas. And I will say, I loved my time at IBM, and I loved the experience. But then once I had the opportunity to be, with in oil and gas, and it just felt like home. It really, as I got into this industry, got to know people, and it's a small world in oil and gas. Even though there's a lot of people that work in this industry, it's a small world. So as I got to get more entrenched in this business and get to know people, and it just felt very warm. And I've really fallen in love with this industry. So it's been a great career path so far.
So Brian asking the hard hitting questions. Did you get a sign-on bonus at that point in time?
I don't think so. I don't think I got a sign-on bonus when I first joined Hughes Christianson, but anyway, I mean, it was definitely, it was one of those things that was a kind of a career reset for me, because at IBM, they'd given me tremendous experiences. And by the time I left IBM, I was actually running a segment of one of our business lines, and it was a $250 million a year P&L. And I was the operations manager for that business. And then I came to Hughes Christianson as a field engineer, and I really wanted to learn the industry from the ground up, and sort of hit the career reset button and said, hey, I need to, if I'm going to move into oil and gas, I need to know it from the ground up. And so having that opportunity was great. And again, just, it was a great way to start my career. And Baker Hughes was a great company. I spent, about 10 years there in total. So loved working there. Awesome people.
Well, one of the things I noticed that you did while you were there was the automated drilling, right? Yes. And so that was back in, I think, like 2009, 2010 or whatnot. Like I said, I did a little bit of research prior to today's show. I know everybody's surprised right now. Everybody's like, what? You actually did something? Okay. So my big question here is the stuff that you were working on then and or envisioning then, has that come to fruition? Maybe not specifically within Baker, but within the industry as a whole, because obviously a lot has changed since then to now. So it's interesting to be able to, like, you know, kind of just see that scope there of what you were working on then and where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And so 2009, 2010, I was working for Intech, right? Drilling services at Baker Hughes. And in that role, I was the automated drilling systems product line manager, which was auto track, right? I mean, it was rotary steerable essentially. We also had true track, and I think they still do have true track and vertitrack, maybe, I'm not sure. And when I came into that role, essentially my role, the objective I had was to scope and launch a land-based rotary steerable system. Because, you know, 2009 or so, I mean, you know, rotary steerable was an international thing. It was offshore. You didn't see as much rotary steerable certainly in the U.S. land market, and then also other land markets around the world, other than maybe the Middle East. And so, really, my objective was, okay, if we're going to design a land-based rotary, that's how ingenious the naming was at the time. But land-based rotary steerable, you know, what are the requirements for that? And so, auto track curve was really what we came up with. I was the product manager for that product line, and worked with a lot of people that are actually, you know, I've seen some of the comments in the comment section over here. Duncan Blue and I were working closely together when I was working on that project, and a few other folks I see in the comment string there. And, you know, so what we envisioned at that time was, could we come up with a technology that was fit for purpose for the land drilling environment, for drilling in these shale plays in the U.S., that would really be appropriate for that market and have a value proposition in that market. And I think certainly what you've seen over the course of the last 10 years is rotary steerable has absolutely, you know, gained a lot of share in the U.S. land and Canada and others, you know, drilling environments. And there's some applications where it is fit for purpose and has a value proposition, and then there's applications where it's not fit for purpose and doesn't have a value proposition. So I saw the market study you did, I think maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, on what share does rotary steerable have. And you know, it's kind of funny because I think the projections that you have there are almost exactly in line with sort of what we were envisioning at the time, as we were developing that technology. So it's just, you know, things have sort of worked out, I would say, as expected. And obviously we see rotary steerable has dominated, you know, some applications more so than others in the land drilling environment. So what would be your projection going forward now? Where do you see land-based RSS going? Man, I tell you, that's almost like a game theory type question, right? Because it sort of depends on what happens. You know, it sort of depends on what happens. And the thing I always tell people is I love the U.S. land market, because it sort of reinvents itself every, you know, 3 to 5 years. It's just it's a completely different environment, or not completely different, but significantly different environment, you know, every 3 to 5 years, which is great because you constantly have to be evolving and adapting to win. But, you know, to answer your question directly, you know, I do think rotary steerable will continue to drill more footage in the U.S. It kind of depends on what ultimately happens with well trajectories, and, you know, do the laterals end up going longer and longer and longer, or do we reach a point of diminishing returns where you know, it doesn't make sense to continue to drill further in those lateral sections? But I do think that there will be a continued slight uptick in rotary steerable adoption in the U.S. land drilling environment, if supply chain can keep up. Which, I mean, that's a huge limiting factor right now. Is you know, the companies that are really dominating in that space are you know, highly constrained on delivering new tools to the U.S. drilling environment for rotary steerable.
So do you think having like there on your question or your comment about supply chain, do you think that just supply chain efficiency or supply chain security can actually be a competitive advantage in today's market?
Oh, I think it already is. You know, I think some companies have been very proactive about securing supply, whether that be, you know, steel, electronics, elastomer, whatever the case may be. I think some companies have been, you know, very strategic and proactive, and have continued to be secure sources for materials and supply. And then other companies have not been, and they're more highly constrained on whether they're a raw material provider or whether they're a complete tool provider. You know, some companies were more strategic and maybe had a better balance sheet to be you know, proactive from an inventory perspective. And then other companies haven't been able to do that or didn't have the foresight to do that. And so, yeah, I think it has been a strategic advantage for some and will continue to be, you know, for some period of time. I don't see, you know, the supply chain challenges easing anytime in the next, you know, 6 to 12 months by any means.
All right, so I have to put this up here. Angus James, who's been a guest on the show before, land-based means easy to use and cheaper than a pickaxe.
Yeah, well, so, okay, I don't, you know, the original name for that project was low-cost rotary steerable system. And then we changed it to land-based rotary steerable system because, you know, we didn't want it to have a negative connotation on being cheap, right?
That's not the greatest marketing name.
Well, yeah, and then the name that went out to the market was AutoTrack Curve. But yeah, I mean, you know, look, at the end of the day, when it comes to rotary steerable, they are complex systems. It's always going to be a more expensive system to run than a motor-based system. And so then it really has to come down to, you know, does it have the reliability and does it have the value proposition to save enough days on well to pay back that incremental cost that you're going to pay for that technology. And that's really what we were looking at, you know, again, what was it, 13 years ago when I was working on that project at Baker Hughes. I mean, I can literally take you back to the break-even analysis performance that I was doing on, okay, it has to save this many days to deliver on this value proposition for someone to want to pay this much more for the technology on a day rate basis. So
I think that had you published that, we would probably be still using whatever Excel sheet that was to this day.
Yeah.
Duncan Blue says rotary steerable is one of those industry-changing technologies, right up there with the top drive that changed the drilling industry. So yes, sir.
Totally
agree with that. Do agree with that one. All right. So not to skip around too much, one of the things I wanted to go back to there was with the supply chain stuff. Obviously, you know, you're in a new role here, and we'll get into that in a minute. But are you guys, like you said, forecasting 2 years out or 3 years out? I know that some of this might be y'all's competitive advantage, but like how far are you guys looking down the road to be able to make sure that y'all are not having hiccups with supply chain?
Yeah. Well, I would say we always try to keep a, you know, sort of rolling 12-month forecast of what we're anticipating from an activity, from an activity perspective in the market, and then an activity perspective in terms of, you know, jobs and what that translates to in terms of motors and power sections and electronics and MWD components and everything else, right? So, you know, we do look at a you know, just as any good business would do, you know, a rolling 12-month forecast and say, you know, in the crystal ball that we see right now, what should we anticipate? And you know, what's the high case, what's the low case, what's the expected case, and what does that mean for us, you know, in terms of assets that we need, in terms of inventory that we need, in terms of personnel that we need, and thinking through, you know, all those elements of our business so that you know, we can plan appropriately, and then And then based upon that, what are the items that we think are going to be the most significant sources of issue when it comes to securing, whether it be raw materials or components, right? So we're constantly looking at and looking forward to say, where do we see those pinch points, and then what actions do we need to take now, or what actions do we need to take in 3 months to mitigate those potential pinch points.
All right, now because we're just going to keep jumping all over the place. John DeWart says, are clients including borehole quality, tortuosity, or porpoising in the value proposition for rotary steerable tools? Now, I know that's not what y'all are doing currently, but it'd be interesting to see if that was even the value proposition back at 2009, 2010.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, and it hits on more of a question of what do those technical issues lead to from a whether it be cost to complete the well or loss of production during the life of the well, really. So what we were always trying to tie it back to when it comes to those types of issues was what does that ultimately result in for clients in terms of the cost to either complete their well, running casing, for example, or running whatever complex completion system they were using in different environments, tortuosity and things of that nature. What sort of challenges does that present, or does it ultimately lead to issues with production or the ability to intervene and work over that well over a longer time horizon of that well's life and things of that nature. Now the challenge is, with those types of issues, it's maybe not necessarily the drilling engineer's problem, right? So now you're talking about other influencers that maybe aren't directly tied to the purchase decision or the service selection decision on whether to run rotary steerable versus another technology versus conventional.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you for your question. Everybody else other people watching, if you guys have questions, be sure to throw them off. All right. So one of the other things I want to cover, because now that you are in the directional drilling business, you've got a very extensive experience and background with drill bits. How is that helping you going forward? Moving into the directional drilling space.
Yeah. So as you I'm sure saw, so I worked for Baker Hughes for a long time, and a lot of experience in drill bits and drilling services. And then I worked for another small company for a short period of time that was in the drilling space, Tercel. We were a small business that we did drill bits, downhole tools.
I'm a 1-month alumni from Tercel as well, so I stayed long enough just to go, this is not for me.
Ouch.
Nothing against you. You weren't there yet.
That's right. That's right.
Prior to your tenure. So yeah.
And then I took I left Baker Hughes in 2013 for the second time, and went to a company called Intercorp, and we did flowback. And so flowback and sand management, which was on the completions and production side of the business, and a great company. Absolutely loved working there. And then this opportunity at Pro came along, and for a couple of key reasons, it seemed it was a good fit for me to make that transition. But I think one of the things that if you've been in drilling for some amount of time, it sort of gets in your blood, right? That constant pursuit of increased performance and lowering non-productive time and lowering days on well and drilling better wells. It's a constant optimization process. That as soon as you say, well, there's just no way we can drill these wells faster than 10 days, then you're enhancing your technology, you're enhancing your practices, you're learning, and next thing you know, you're delivering the wells instead of in 10 days, you're delivering them in 8.5 days, which again doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's 15% improvement, which means you can drill 15% more wells with the same amount of rigs, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, from my past experiences, I would say, I've had the opportunity to work in U.S. markets, international markets, worked with drill bits, with drilling systems, with other downhole tools. And I'm just bringing, and I've worked in a variety of roles. So I've worked in sales, I've worked in operations, I've worked in engineering, I've worked in technology development, I've worked in marketing, and really bringing all that to Pro has just been a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to the future that we have, and just excited about the number one, what the team has accomplished to date, and really just excited for the tremendous potential that we have to continue to deliver better and better services in the directional drilling space.
What are you most excited for going forward in the directional drilling space?
And I knew you were going to ask that question, and it's hard to pick one thing.
Well, we got plenty of time here. You can ramble off several of them.
Yeah, it is hard to pick one thing, but I will say, I think the thing that's really exciting to me, especially for where we're at with ProDirectional, is I think ProDirectional has really built a strong reputation around motors and drilling expertise, and I think that is awesome, and I absolutely want to keep that, and I want to make sure we continue to enhance that reputation. But I think one of the things that we're less known for is maybe more on the MWD and technology side of the business, and really the investment that has been made over the last 3 to 5 years in developing MWD technology and in developing our capabilities in terms of remote operations. And really looking at ways that we can simplify, the deployment of not only the mechanical parts of the BHA, but then also the MWD and the surface system and all those things to minimize personnel touch points on location. And then I would say, the other part that I'm incredibly excited about is, digital technologies and looking at, how do we eliminate a lot of the reporting, a lot of the manual touch points of what our DDs are doing on location, what our MWD hands are doing on location. How do we eliminate and streamline a lot of those manual tasks so that our team is really focused on the things that provide the most value to the client, which is making sure operations run smooth, and when issues do arise, addressing those issues, right? So those, I don't know, does that answer your question? I gave you a lot of different things there, but those are the things that I'm most excited about, in terms of where we've been spending our time and where we will be spending our time moving forward.
Well, I mean, as an MWD guy, there's always been that, overshadowed by the directional and the drilling side of the business. So to hear that side of the business get a little bit of love, always, feels pretty good. And hopefully Seth is still watching. And if he is, thanks for, him for, tuning in and watching, because I know he's a key part of that team.
Absolutely.
What things can you say about the future, maybe of just like the MWD side, and where you guys would like to be able to take that?
Yeah. Well, obviously I'm not going to get too specific. But I mean, I think it's no secret that Pro has developed a strong reputation in like higher temperature drilling markets, right? I mean, we drill 1 in 3 wells in the Eagleford, and we drill about 1 in 4 wells in the Haynesville. And routinely we are drilling at temperatures, every day above 340 degrees Fahrenheit, and on many days we're drilling at above 375 degrees Fahrenheit and up to 385 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So, and that's with our motor technology and and power section technology, as well as with our MWD technology. So, one of the paths forward for us is to absolutely continue to enhance our technology for high temperature drilling environments, and making that technology more reliable, more robust, more capable of withstanding temperatures. And then obviously enhancing the feature set that we can deliver in not only standard temperature environments, but then also high temperature environments. And then, also from a technology perspective, just looking for, I mean, some of this is things that you would say are moderately obvious, right? I mean, continuing to enhance reliability, continuing to look at, how do we enhance our ability to withstand shock and vibe? How do we enhance our ability to just continue to operate without issues downhole? And I would say a big part of our push moving forward is going to be, how do we deploy our BHAs with less manual intervention required at the rig site, right? So whether that be in, reducing the amount of service required on lower ends, whether that be, making up the MWD string with less, in less time on location, or not needing to make up, and being able to deploy a collar rather than MWD components to a location, right? So just reducing the amount of manual touch points in the field, and being able to more seamlessly deploy technology and set up and run jobs with fewer touch points on location.
All very important stuff, which actually leads into a question. So we've got two kind of questions in here about that, and then one comment real quick. Kevin Smith: the automation of data collection is a great objective to pursue. It really does open up for better quality performance. Having been somebody dependent upon people putting in the data correctly, I can agree with that. And having been the person in the field having to manually enter in all the data, I 100% agree with that as well.
Yeah, and David, I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, we're collecting all this data. I mean, this stuff is being measured, and then we're asking people to re-enter it. I mean, it's like,
and not just re-enter it, give their interpretation of the data of what just happened over that sand, like what tool face or what was your weight on bit. You're right. It was all collected, and then they have to give their interpretation and then enter it. So there's two different spots for failure. So sorry to interrupt, but yeah.
No, exactly.
The whole data thing, I could go off.
Yeah, and there's obviously there's just no reason for that, and it's a distraction, quite frankly, from doing more value added activities on location, right? Let's worry about well placement. Let's worry about if there's if we're having hole condition challenges, how do we spend our time helping the client troubleshoot that and come up with the best solution and path forward on how to drill this well, things like that. Let's spend our time on those things and spend less time on, filling out reports and filling out, bits of information that are already being collected in another way. Right. So,
yeah. So, Eric said he was tuning in from the south of France. Once again, international show here. In hot geothermal, MWD appears to be one of the main limiting factors. Any good news on that matter? So are you guys doing any geothermal stuff?
Yeah, so we aren't currently doing any geothermal work that I can think of right this very second. So I think that's something that we will absolutely look at, and we will potentially consider pursuing. But right now, our primary focus has been serving, the oil and gas market and driving forward there. I do think that's an adjacent space that, is definitely worth us considering and looking at and seeing how, our expertise, particularly in high temperature drilling environments, can help enhance performance in those applications as well.
Okay. I'd be remiss if I didn't hit you with at least one technical question. Is this with mud chillers or chillers running at the rig for the high temperature stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I mean that certainly varies client to client on what they use and how they operate that. But absolutely work with a lot of clients that use mud chillers to help limit and help reduce the circulating temperatures.
Did it just freeze?
No.
Okay. Never mind. It's just froze on my end, so just ignore me. That's okay. John DeWar says, Mark, do you see any trends in remote operations with automation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, we have, by the way, we have a tremendous remote operations center. I think in the long list of things that I'm excited about, which we sort of hit on earlier, that's one of the things that I'm extremely excited about is the fact that the team has built such a fantastic remote operations center, that we've shown clients that, moving to remote operations is not a situation where you're going to lose service quality. Quite frankly, we're going to enhance the service quality that we can provide. So I think, by automating more manual tasks, by reducing the amount of manual tasks required on location, that just enables more and more to be done, from a remote operations perspective. And the other way that we look at that is manual tasks, as you just mentioned earlier, right? It's just opportunities for errors, right? It's opportunities for it's just opportunities for there to be a reliability issue of some sort. So by eliminating those manual tasks, whether it's data entry or some sort of field service or assembling of assembling of tools, by helping reduce those tasks, make them easier, or eliminating them, is just an opportunity to enhance reliability, and then also enhance the ability to move more of those of the service level to be performed via remote operations.
All right. So we get another question here from Angus, and I'm just giddy with the fact that Angus is watching and spending his Friday evening. Is there a realistic ultimate limit to temperature tolerance for MWD beyond which a different solution will be required?
Yes. Do I know exactly what that number is? I don't. I think was it Ken Miller it was somebody in your intro that said,
oh yeah,
something to the effect of, the things that we're doing now. I mean, I think this is relatively common knowledge probably with your following, but the things that we do in this space, it literally exceeds the spec for aerospace quality, sensors and electronics, right? So, we're already at a level of performance that is not really seen in any other, or many other anyway, in mainstream industries. So yeah, I mean, the short answer to your question is, yeah, there is a realistic limit to what we're doing today. But there's a tremendous amount of innovation in this space as well, right? And we are constantly, both in-house and with technology partners, evaluating new technologies to push the limits further on temperature, right? So, there's no less than 15 different things that we're evaluating right now. Different technology components, different pieces of different electrical components or technologies that we're looking at to push the barrier further on temperature. And that's just always in the queue for us. We're always looking at what is the next thing to help enhance our reliability, to help push the limits further on temperature so that we eliminate trips, right? I mean, that's what it's all about, is enhancing reliability. So we eliminate the number of trips, in these long laterals that are being drilled in the Haynesville and Eagle Ford.
So in the scope of like directional drilling companies and once again, kind of the future of directional drilling, we started to see more service companies who are almost like where it's like almost like a la carte, where, you get the mud motor from this company, you get well planning from here, you get directional people from here, you get mud motors from here, you get, MWD has, for the most part, stayed homogeneous. I haven't heard of anybody separating MWD tools and MWD hands yet. If I'm incorrect in that, please somebody let me know. But obviously Pro is an all-encompassing directional drilling company to where, it's kind of like the legacy thought of it, to where you have all of those parts in-house. Do you see that still continuing forward to be, the best business model, where you do that and then keep, adding in either digital and the drilling automation and some of the other items to it? Or do you see, maybe in the future where, it's just the individual kind of a la carte services what dominates the industry?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked this question because we absolutely do full service, and we do a full service for a large number of our customers, where we we're providing the, like as you said, right? We're providing the directional drillers, we're providing the downhole motors, we're providing MWD tools and hands and remote operations, right? So we absolutely provide full service to a large number of our customers, but increasingly we are doing MWD only jobs as a great example, right? So we may not have the men and motors on location, but we have customers that have had reliability issues with the MWD that they were using. And so we've talked to them about our technology, which for the high temp space is Octane and Octane XT is the brands that we've developed for high temperature MWD. And then in standard temperature drilling environments, we use our Sprint MWD system. And we've got MWD only jobs where we're providing each of those technologies in different drilling environments, and really just because we've made this investment in developing some really great MWD technology that is providing a reliable service in a variety of different applications, and so we've made the decision that makes sense for us to offer that as an a la carte service if that's a fit for what our clients are looking for. So yes, you're right. Historically, Pro has been a full service type directional drilling service provider, and now we've seen the trend in the market that customers have preferences, and sometimes they have their own directional drillers, and they're sourcing motors from a variety of different people. And hey, I'm totally great with that. Let me support you from an MWD perspective.
Do you see it as a growing trend where more operators start to in-house the directional personnel and maybe some of the directional drilling automations with certain digital softwares that help guide or evaluate the directional drilling? Do you think that'll continue across more operators as we go forward?
I mean, that is a good question. And again, I can't tell you that I know the exact outcome of how that will go. I 100% believe that there are going to be some operators that have made the decision that it's in their best interest to pursue that path. And you probably know who some of those are just as well as I do. I don't think that is a situation that's going to make sense for all operators. Simply because I think many operators have realized, like, I don't want to manage that. That's not my core business. My core business is reservoir and delivering wells. And that's what I'm going to focus on. And then I'm going to hire service companies to provide the services to, execute that. And then there's other operators that have said, you know what, this is something that is so important to our business. We want to bring that aspect of service delivery in-house and manage it directly. And I think that really is just, ultimately an individual decision that each one of those companies, and even at some of those companies that are large operators, they do it one way in one area and a different way in another area, right? It's kind of come down to how that drilling manager or vice president of operations has decided to run that segment of their business. So I think the short answer to your question is it's certainly a trend in the market. I don't think it will be something that happens 100% across the board, but I do fully expect and currently see that it is happening with some large operators.
All right. Well, guys, if you guys have got any more questions, that's most of what I've got as far as my questions on this side. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about, because I know that directional drilling and drilling is not the only thing that you do, and you've also been doing some stuff outside of that as far as your volunteering. So can you talk about that a little bit for everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's really two organizations that have become sort of near and dear to me. The first is called CASA of Montgomery County. So it's court-appointed special advocates. And what CASA does is it provides advocacy for children going through the foster care system. CASA is a national organization, and whether you're in Montgomery County here in North Houston, or if you're in another part of Houston, another part of Texas, or even in any part of the U.S., there is probably a CASA organization near you. And I would absolutely encourage folks to learn more about that organization and how they help children go through the foster care system. And then the second organization that is I'm trying to become more involved with. I actually just interviewed for a board seat with them earlier this week, is Mental Health America of Greater Houston, so MHA of Greater Houston. And so mental health is something we really don't talk about a whole lot, especially I think in the oil and gas industry. We've kind of got we want to have tough personas, right? And sometimes, mental health is one of those things that, if there's a stigma around it associated with it, that if you have some sort of mental health challenge, it may be a sign of weakness. But for me, I've had some really people very close to me go through mental health challenges. In fact, to the point where, two people that are very dear to me had what are referred to as crisis situations, which were not at the time life-threatening, but were very significant and very severe situations for those people. And as we've been able to get help for them and have the underlying issues that they had from a mental health perspective addressed, what I've learned is that there was some very observable things that happened that could have led us to getting them help sooner and not led to that crisis or significant event in their life. And anyway, so I've been introduced to this organization, Mental Health America of Greater Houston. The website is mhahouston.org, and they've got some tremendous resources that if you or someone appears to be going through a tough situation or is being impacted by mental health challenges, they've got excellent resources that can help you, number one, see that something is going on, and then help you get help. It's a great organization. They do a lot of education. They do a lot of support for and education in school environments. They have great programs for veterans. Veterans are a huge population that are impacted by mental health challenges just due to the trauma that a lot of our veterans have gone through in their life. They are really focused on integrative health, which is integrating mental health with physical well-being as well. And anyway, it's just a great organization and something that I've been looking to get involved with, and really, I just want to help become a better advocate for folks that are experiencing and being challenged with mental health problems.
Well, I for one really appreciate your willingness to be able to talk about this. Obviously, I can see that you're passionate about it. With helping out with two different organizations, most people usually just with one. For those that don't know that are watching the show now, my own father took his life in early 2014, and he was a retired service member, had done multiple tours in Middle East and around the world. And so this is something that I appreciate immensely, to where, I wouldn't want somebody else to have to go through the same things that I've been through with their father or sister, mother, loved ones, or whatever. So I appreciate that immensely. And for anybody else that's out there, obviously there are, for most companies, and maybe Mark, you can speak about this, that they, through your healthcare services already have some mental health,
yes.
I guess you could say support.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't recognize is most healthcare coverage actually does have support, not only for partial coverage for counseling, as well as partial coverage for psychiatric help. So if you or someone you love or a family member finds himself in a situation where they are having a mental health challenge, there's most healthcare providers have what's called an EAP program. It's an employee assistance program, I believe is what that stands for. And there's a hotline you can call, and they will help link you with a service provider that can support you. And then, just like anything else, there are a variety of counselors and psychiatric doctors that will be, in network, just as a medical doctor would be, that will be in network to help provide, health services for you. And to me, we should be talking about mental health just like it's a physical condition, right? I mean, if you have a heart problem, if you have an issue with your breathing, or with, if you have the flu, you go see a doctor. If you have a mental health challenge, employee assistance program. So Brian mentioned in there. So if you have a mental health challenge, you should go see, either a counselor or a psychiatrist that can help address that mental health challenge. And it should be no different for someone facing a mental health challenge as it is a physical health challenge. And one statistic I'll throw out there, I'm getting kind of long-winded here, but one statistic.
No, go for it.
Is that, and this is kind of mind-blowing, is that 1 in 2 people will face a mental health situation at some point in their life. Now, that may be something that is not a massive issue, or it could be something that is completely debilitating. And it's a full spectrum of things that can be that can happen to you, just as it is with any physical condition. So you're not alone. You're not the only one that has experienced that issue or that challenge. There should be no shame associated with it. It's not a sign of weakness. And I would just encourage you, if you're having something that feels like out of your control, get the help and support that you need. And I'll also throw out there, I'm very active on LinkedIn. If you're currently having a problem or a challenge and you don't know what to do, you don't know how to get help, please message me on LinkedIn. I can't help you personally, but I can help you find help. I'm certainly not qualified to provide that service, and I'll do it 100% confidentially if that's what you want. So anyway, just throwing that out there.
Well, I mean, it's great to be able to hear, and I think it's very important within our industry because we do understand and know the cyclical nature of our industry. So I know that some of these mental health situations can be brought about because of our industry in and of itself. One, like you mentioned, where there is the bravado or the egocentric nature of being tough and being able to, just rub some dirt on it and walk it off kind of thing. As well as the other side of it, which is, massive amounts of layoffs and, person's personal identity lost with, with their job was who they are. Right. So I have been laid off and fired multiple times. We all know that I am not a good employee. Right. I am much better just managing myself, but it's nothing for me. I love to be able to put that out there and tell people that, because obviously, I made it through there. I'm not going to say that, I've been successful since then. That's not the part of it. It's just that I was able to make it through that situation and be able to continue moving forward. So for anybody that is out there who has faced those issues or whatnot, not only Mark and or myself are there to be able to help people out there. So I think it's an incredibly important message. We probably should have led the show with this. But we still have pretty much the same number of people watching now. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to be able to talk about that, Mark. And I think we're not getting a whole lot more questions or anything, but I want to be able to turn it over to you. Is there anything else that you would want to be able to, plug about your volunteering or about Pro or the industry? Any final thoughts you'd like to be able to share?
Yeah, what I think the final thought I'll share is just, number one, how proud and happy I am to be, part of the Pro organization. It's a tremendous team and just highly committed to what we do and our clients. But I also just want to say, how proud I am to be part of this industry. I love what we do. you know, and I think we are sort of vilified at times. And I think, you know, when you think about things in life that are vital for life, you know, obviously water is top of the list and food is second. And then third on the list is energy, right? And, you know, we're working in an industry that is vital to life, that is vital to quality of life. And we're working in an industry that is providing the vast majority of energy to the globe. And I'm just, you know, I'm constantly just so proud of, you know, not only what we here at Pro do, but what our industry does collectively, you know, to enhance the quality of life for billions around the world. So anyway, that's the last thing I'll throw out. And just wanted to say it's certainly been a pleasure to be on the show, David, and thank you so much for inviting me and finally inviting somebody from Pro, which was nice.
I feel so bad for. I'm gonna have to call Mike and tell him I'm sorry. I completely forgot.
But yeah, thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed the discussion, and hopefully it was, you know, somewhat fun to your viewers, and look forward to being on again at some point in the future.
Maybe I want to do one thing where we get just like a whole bunch of execs from the different directional companies and have them all on at one time, just to be able to, like, I don't know, just talk about the stuff in the industry, and I don't know, maybe start a fist fight. Who knows?
Yeah, may put us in like an octagon and just have it, you know, like a ultimate fighting championship. I would not win that though, unfortunately.
Cage match of all the directional companies.
That wouldn't be good for me.
I wonder who would win that. All right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate it. For everybody out there who is still watching, we have kept the audience pretty much the entire show. Let me think. Next week we have got Austin Groover and Isaac Fonseca from Neighbors, who are going to be on the show here in-house to be able to talk about some downhole data that they have been capturing, some high frequency stuff, reminiscent of my times with Lodestar. So if you're interested in seeing the Lodestar stuff, that episode is on YouTube. You guys can go back. Of course, all these episodes, everything that we stream now is all on YouTube. I have hired an assistant. I haven't posted about it on LinkedIn yet, but I hired an assistant, and she is helping me get all of the old episodes that are not onto YouTube, and just managing all of that stuff. So that's really good. The week after Neighbors, we have got Graham Mintz of Wilmot, and Graham will be here in-house teaching you guys all kinds of stuff. We're going to have the glow board set up. Big project for me that I have got to get done as quick as possible. After that, we're going to have people like Mike Shellman, Miles Wollerson from Scout Turbo Drill. He's going to be coming on the show at some point in time. I know Danette is watching. Hopefully she'll be able to hammer that one out. Try to think. If there's somebody else that you guys would like to be able to see on the show, whether they do a technical presentation or just do a conversation like I've done here with Mark today, let me know. I'm always, you know, the show is for the people, right? This really isn't like, I enjoy doing this. It's a lot of fun regardless, but I want to be able to bring something to you guys. So if there's, you know, if you've got a CEO that's on your team that you would like to have come on and talk to me, hit me up, let me know. Trying to think of anything else. I think that's about it. Really appreciate. Somebody said hi, Tracy. Oh, Norman's met Tracy. Tracy's not in office today, but she got COVID, so I told her she's not allowed to do any work until she gets to feeling better. So Norman's met her, but he comes up as LinkedIn user. So that's it for me, you guys. Be sure to tune in every Friday, 10 a.m. Vito Locksmith Show. Like, share, subscribe. Share it to a friend, do all the social media stuff, follow me on LinkedIn. Let me try to think of all the other things I'm supposed to tell you to do. Have a great weekend. And as always, know your industry. Where's the button?
See ya. Bye.